Daredevil Born Again has finally arrived after years of anticipation. There was a lot riding on this show's success. The Daredevil Netflix show has been hailed by many as one of the best comic book shows ever made, and I can definitely agree with that statement. Daredevil was praised for having great characters, great action, great dialogue, having arguably the best villain in the MCU with Wilson Fisk, and being able to stand out from the rest of the MCU with its much darker tone. This is why there was such public outcry when Daredevil was cancelled back in 2018. It also didn't help that this cancellation came shortly after we got an amazing third season. I wasn't watching the show back when it came out, but I do remember the cancellation announcement, and to comic book fans, it felt like the end of the world. For years, people have been begging for Daredevil to make his return to the MCU, and finally in 2021, Charlie Cox reprised his role as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home, as well as Vincent D'Onofrio reprising his role as Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye, to the surprise of many fans, including myself. In fact, I had this to say about it before No Way Home came out. At this point, the Netflix Marvel shows, if they were to cross over with the MCU, they probably would have already done it. If it was going to happen, it probably would have already happened by now. Plus, they're probably going to become non-canon in the MCU pretty soon. Yeah, I probably sound like a complete dumbass now, especially considering that pretty much everything I predicted about No Way Home turned out to be 100% wrong. But regardless, I and a lot of people were very happy to see them return, and excited about the potential for a revival show. However, the next two projects that Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk would appear in turned out to be She-Hulk Attorney at Law and Echo, which weren't exactly the best. Honestly, looking back, I think I might have been too kind to Daredevil's appearance in She-Hulk. What a terrible contrast to how his character was in the Netflix show. I think I was more forgiving to some of the flaws with his appearance in that show because I was just excited to see him. And in terms of Echo, while it wasn't as insulting as the She-Hulk stuff, a lot of people weren't too thrilled with Kingpin's demise at the end of Echo with the whole spiritual powers thing. It was also during this time that we started hearing things about this new Daredevil show. Karen Page and Foggy Nelson were apparently not going to be returning, and the show was going to take place within the 5-year time jump in Endgame, which sounded very disappointing for a lot of people. It was also being said that Matt doesn't actually get into costume until the 4th episode. It was reported that this new show might not even carry over from the Netflix canon, so it basically would have been a reboot instead. And if all that wasn't bad enough, it wasn't even confirmed that the show was going to be TVMA or not. Needless to say, this was all very concerning.
No, wait!
If this show wasn't good, a lot of people would have probably given up on the MCU. But then something happened that changed things. The creative team of this new reboot were kicked off and were all replaced. This is when they started confirming the TVMA rating, confirming the return of Karen and Foggy, confirming that the show was going to carry over from the Netflix canon. Suddenly things were looking a lot better, but the question is, was this enough to save the show? You see, a lot of the stuff that the pre-overhaul team contributed was still a part of the show, as they had already filmed 6 of the episodes. What the post team did was redo the pilot episode and episode 8 and 9. The final version of Daredevil Born Again is a combination of the pre-overhaul reboot show, as well as being a continuation of the Netflix canon that the post-overhaul contributed. Now, right off the bat, if you go into this show expecting it to be season 4 of Daredevil, you might be disappointed. However, at the same time, if you were one of those people worried that Disney was going to butcher the dark tone that the Netflix show established, you'll be pleasantly surprised. But enough build-up, it's time for me to answer the question. That question being, is Daredevil Born Again good? Or more simply, is Daredevil born again? Alright, let's get into it. Oh boy, I can't wait to see Matt, Karen, and Foggy again. The Avocados at Law back together after 6 years. Here we go. Fuck! That's right, folks. 8 minutes into the new show, and one of the main characters is killed off. But hey, at least we get to see more of Karen, right? Right? Oh, son of a bitch. Yeah, after the first episode, Karen just disappears for whatever reason, and doesn't show up again until the finale. Karen and Foggy are basically replaced by new characters Kristen and Heather. There's also Cherry, a retired officer who is aware of Matt's life as Daredevil. I do not care for any of these characters. There's just nothing to them. Heather is just there to be Matt's girlfriend, but they don't even have any chemistry. This is probably my biggest problem with this first season, but I understand that this was the pre-overhaul writers doing, and I wanted to get that out of the way first. So before you rage at me in the comment section, I still ended up liking this first season despite the lack of Karen and Foggy. At first, I wasn't thrilled about the idea of Matt giving up Daredevil after Foggy's death, but the way the show goes about it is very clever. Even though I don't like these new characters, I do recognize their role in this story. They're supposed to represent Matt's new life now that he's no longer Daredevil. Karen doesn't appear until the finale because that's when Matt is fully returned to being Daredevil. The death of Hector Ayala is also something that makes him question if he's doing the right thing by not being Daredevil anymore. It's a tragic, unexpected death right after Hector is found innocent. His conversation with Frank in episode 4 is also something that makes Matt rethink his purpose, which is such a great, well-acted scene. Maybe some people might not like the lack of Daredevil in this season, but the show takes its time and eases into Matt becoming Daredevil again. Something else that I loved was that they do the same thing with Kingpin. Wilson Fisk becomes mayor of New York while leaving his wife Vanessa to deal with his criminal empire. But over time, the show starts to ease him back into his role as the Kingpin of crime. He starts the season as Mayor Fisk and ends it as Mayor Kingpin, which is fantastic. The show constantly mixes scenes of Matt and Fisk together to show both returning to their past roles. That's probably the best thing about this first season. One of the new characters that I did like is Daniel Blake, who works with Fisk. He's basically a suck-up and is the only one around Fisk who actually stands behind him 100%. I'm curious as to what they do with him in Season 2. Another thing that's great is the fight scenes. Because Daredevil's on Disney+, they're able to utilize a larger budget and have Daredevil flip around more and throw his billy club around. This is especially displayed in his fights with Muse, which I guess kind of leads me into my next point. A lot of people were disappointed that Muse was killed off so fast. It was my impression that he was going to have a bigger role than he ended up having. He appears in episode 2 and 4 as small cameos pretty much, and then has 2 fights with Daredevil in episode 6 and 7. He's then shot and killed by Heather at the end of episode 7. I feel like they could have done more with such a sadistic character, a serial killer who likes to make art out of his victim's blood. Really, he's only here to give Matt more of a reason to be Daredevil again. Like I said, the fight scenes are cool to see, and they are pretty violent, which is a plus. One thing I really do appreciate about this show is that unlike Echo, which danced around the TV MA rating, Born Again does take advantage of it. Not only does it use the word fuck multiple times, it also progressively gets more violent and bloody as the show goes on. Now, in regard to episode 5, you can pretty much skip it. Matt and Kamala's dad save a bunch of hostages from a bank robbery. It's not a terrible episode. I appreciate the connection to the larger MCU using characters like Kamala's dad, as that was something that the Netflix show was lacking, and I do like the use of Matt's radar sense, but this episode is all filler. It has no effect on the story, and Fisk doesn't even appear at all. This is likely why they released episode 5 and 6 together. The show definitely becomes a lot more interesting with episode 8. I loved the use of the color blue with Bullseye, and the scene of Fisk talking to Matt with his radar sense. It was a unique way of having them communicate. The finale is especially great. Commissioner Gallo's death in particular is a highlight. Without going into too much detail, let's just say that his demise is the same as the audience's reaction. Jaw-dropping. Seeing Karen return and Matt finally explaining the origin of the avocados at law joke was a nice touch. I loved seeing the brutal Punisher fight between him and the Vigilante Task Force. Now, this finale is great, but if you recall a line spoken in episode 2, there's a major character that's missing from this finale. I mean, seriously, Fisk declares martial law, the power is cut throughout New York, all hell breaks loose, and where is everyone's favorite web-slinger when you need him? Yeah? What's that? The city's on fire? Innocent people are getting killed left and right? Yeah, I'll be right there. What a lazy bastard. Although we all know the real reason he's not in this finale, which I thought was beautifully summed up by this comment I read. It is disappointing that Spider-Man isn't in this first season. Even just a small cameo showing that Spider-Man is aware of Fisk would have been nice to see.
But New Yorkers are tough. We know how to take care of ourselves. We don't need a gun-toting vigilante who wears a skull on his chest, or a man who dresses in a spider outfit, or a guy who wears devil horns to save us. No, we'll be our best once again.
You can't just tease him like that and then do nothing with it. I don't know what they have planned for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Judging by the title, it actually sounds like it won't be another multiverse movie, so maybe they will do a street-level story with Daredevil. The problem is, I guess due to some rights issues, Kingpin cannot appear in the movies for some reason. This makes Spider-Man coming face-to-face with Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin very difficult. Kingpin may be Daredevil's main villain, but a lot of people forget that he's also a huge villain for Spider-Man, and was also Spider-Man's villain long before Daredevil. Sony has to come to some sort of deal with Disney to have him appear in Season 2. This isn't just me being a fanboy. I believe this is the logical next step for Spider-Man in the MCU. Nobody knows who he is anymore, which means he's not an Avenger and is a vigilante. This is the perfect time for him to get involved with Daredevil, Kingpin, and Punisher. It sucks how Daredevil can appear in the Spider-Man show and be voiced by Charlie Cox, yet in the Daredevil show, all we get is one reference to Spider-Man. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. Overall, I am really liking Daredevil Born Again so far. All of the actors bring their A game here, and the show is shot really well. The cinematography might actually be better than the Netflix show. Sure, a lot of the new characters suck, and there's a serious lack of Karen and Foggy, but you need to realize that this show, and specifically this season, could have easily been a lot worse, and if it wasn't for the new creative team, we wouldn't have gotten any of Karen or Foggy. We wouldn't have gotten the dark tone, we wouldn't even have gotten Punisher back because John Bernthal initially declined to return as he disagreed with the original idea for his character, but then was on board after the creative overhaul. We were very close to getting a kiddie reboot of Daredevil. So yeah, there are problems with this first season, but I feel like we need to be grateful for what we did end up getting. The new creative team was able to take the original plan and tweak and add to it. For a lot of fans, they basically saved Daredevil Born Again, and this may sound dramatic, but they might have even saved the future of the MCU underneath Disney. This doesn't even feel like a Disney Plus show, and I mean that in a good way. One of my criticisms for the Disney Plus shows is that they all feel the exact same. Born Again is the first Disney Plus show that feels different. No, I don't think this even comes close to being as good as the Netflix show, but I do think it's better than Season 2, which was easily the weakest season with the Elektra and Han stuff. Here's my ratings for each season of the Netflix show if you're curious. I'm gonna give Daredevil Born Again Season 1 an 8 out of 10. If you were to call this the best MCU Disney Plus show, I wouldn't argue with you. Personally for me, I'd like to see Season 2 to confirm that, because right now it's probably tied with Loki for me. There's some really intriguing setup for Season 2, such as Heather working for Fisk, and Matt going to war alongside New York civilians, and possibly even a team of vigilantes. You hear that, Sony? A team of vigilantes! Please make it happen! Season 2 sounds very promising, especially since Karen and Foggy are both confirmed for Season 2. Not sure if this means Foggy will be in a flashback scene, or if this confirms the fan theory that he faked his own death. Either way, I'm actually more excited for Season 2 than I am for Avengers Doomsday. I'm curious to hear what you guys thought of this season, and if the pre-overhaul and post-overhaul content mix well or not. Oh, and I'm sorry for this video being a bit late, it's just that, well, I've been working super hard on Battle of the Mascots Part 2. I totally haven't been following Spider-Man's example of being a lazy bastard or anything. It's coming, guys, I swear. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good night.